Hey, everybody. Welcome to Midwich Live. It's been a while. We're back. You know why? Because it's InfoComm season. You know we're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to deliver some interesting news. We have some updates on what we as a company are doing, and we have all a great show lined up for you. Special guest coming up who's going to get a little deep. I will tell you that if you are on the U.S. side of the conversation, when we used to watch sitcoms when you were younger, this would be considered a very special episode. So that's like your warning that this may get a little emotional because some of this stuff really hits home to us today and a little bit different than what we typically are doing. We're going into a topic that is near and dear to our hearts, and we're bringing on a special guest who also is affected by this as well. So I'm going to let Jenny, who I haven't seen in a long time. I can't wait 2 weeks. We get to hang out.
I know. Also, do you realize today's the first day that we've been late to our own live? So, that's not happened before. So hopefully people didn't join in the first 2 minutes and go, "Oh my God, they're not here," and just disappear.
I grew a beard waiting. It will be removed by June 8th, folks. This will not continue on. Yes, it will be clean shaven and ready to go. And we're going to look our sparkling best at InfoComm in Las Vegas.
I'll get rid of mine too. Anyway, welcome to Midwich Live. We're streaming around the world via Midwich's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter accounts. Ask us questions, comment throughout. Hi, Ifat, you made it before us today, so thank you. And if you don't get to watch the show in full, you can watch it back on our YouTube channel. Just search the Midwich Group, and it should come up. Now, I think it's a big topic today. So shall we run through any InfoComm announcements where people can find us when we're having a party, etc. first, and then we'll talk about why we picked this topic and how we've come to research and find the stuff that we're going to present today.
Let's do that. Let's give the InfoComm scoop. Maybe save something for later after as we close out the show. But yes, let's go right into InfoComm because that is the hot topic. That's what people want to know. That's why the people are here, and we have a lot of good information. Jenny, you want to give us the booth scoop?
Yeah, so booth scoop is an interesting one. So obviously we are known by many names in North America. We are the company of many names. But there is only one floor plan. So if you are, how would you put it, a hard copy reader and you pick up the magazine or the pamphlet, and that's what you use as your floor plan to navigate InfoComm show floor, you will be looking for the Starin booth. You can only have one name against it on the floor plan. However, in the digital directory, you can look up Midwich, Starin, Tool Farm, SFM, and the farm. I think you should be able to type any of those in and it will point you to the Starin booth as well. So don't panic if you forget what name you're supposed to remember to find Midwich people at the show. And the booth number we will come back to because I need to look it up. But we will give it to you before the end of the show. In terms of what you can find there will be coffee, there will be great people, there will be some seating. As in previous years, we sell far too much technology to pick out any single items to show on our booth. That's the job of our partners. So we're really there for a chat. Come find us, learn a bit more about the group. And also we will have AV on air recording on the booth as well. So a sort of combination of what was Basecamp and what has been the AV on Air recording studio at ISE is going to be coming to InfoComm as well. So there might be a couple of slots left. If you would like to record and not have to bring your own kit, reach out to Chris.
Folks, I could give a little bit of detail. AV on Air is honestly, it's the best recording studio outside of any broadcast setups that are being set up there. But it's the best recording studio that you're going to find. 3-camera shoot, producer. We're uploading it to the cloud. You'll have your video immediately. We're not messing around here. What started as here's 4 microphones and a headset and a USB mixer has now elevated. That is what we are good at. This is what we know what to do. Our folks over in the UK at Holden inspired us to continue to level up a lot of different things that we have done, from the cameras to the technology to everything that we have going on. Full-blown set. For people that were at ISE, you saw the videos from there. We are not playing around. I dare, and I challenge anybody else to one-up us next year with this one. So it's a long-standing kind of conversation, because there's multiple places where you can record a podcast. Podcasting has become a lot easier to do, as we see not only from our podcasters in the industry, but from corporations and companies that are building these spaces internally to their own companies. Just recently visited an end user who had this kind of setup in their space. So again, the booth C8022.
Show off.
8022. I know this stuff. It's like embedded in my head, tattooed in the back of my head. I remember these things. Next year will be useless. But you have the space. Absolutely. Come check it out. Come use it. Better yet, if you like anything you see in there, you know what? We will give you a parts list, and you can build that stuff in your own space as well. We have very good, dedicated engineers and professionals who can tell you how to put the whole thing together, even if you want to do this yourself. So it's up to you. But again, AV on Air Studio, it is the place to do your stuff, you do your recordings and stuff like that. So send us a message. Myself, Jenny, Kelly Perkins, we're all putting it all together, and we're going to make it work. And that's AV on Air update. Jenny, continue. Sorry.
So, well, actually, I think that's probably it from me, if you're not wanting to talk about the PARTY until the end of the show.
Yeah, we'll talk about the party at the end of the show, but I could tell you that there are still a few VIP tickets available. I still have some, because I haven't been on the road. I haven't gotten to give away a lot of my tickets yet. So if you don't have a ticket, the best way to get me is on the social channels. Hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on LinkedIn, say, I want to get into your party, and I will get you a pass. I have limited, so please get in. And if you're lucky, I'll give you the VIP tour, where we come through the kitchen a la Goodfellas, and we walk through it with the camera guy with us, and we'll walk right into the big spectacular event that we're having over in Vegas. So please get a hold of me, Jenny. Jenny has some VIP tickets as well. So please, let's blow the roof off the place. And at the end of the party, we'll tell you exactly. At the end of the night, we'll tell you exactly more information about that. Excellent. What else do we got? What are you doing, Jenny? I know your schedule is crazy, but are you doing any spots? I'm going on Avixa TV with my friends. Yes, awesome. I am. I will be doing a quick visit over and hang out with Jen Weaver, and we're going to be talking on Avixa TV. I will be recording with AV Nation on the final day of the show to kind of give my thoughts and about InfoComm on Friday. I have a couple things going on. And today I got some very, very good, interesting news out of the HETMA group. Somebody over there was not feeling good and nominated me for Higher Ed Ally of the Year award. Thank you so much. It's an honor. I don't know how that one worked, but I have big shoes to follow up on that one as well. Thank you so much to HETMA and the board and the group that did the nomination process, and myself. But I'm up against two heavy hitters in the higher ed space, with Kevin Schonert from AVISPL and Jimmy Singleton, who not only is in the space as part of AVISPL, but a former technology manager as well over at USC. So there's a lot of competition. My days of being a technology manager many years ago is not going to help me this time, but I appreciate it. And best of luck to the winner. I guess now I know what I'm going to be doing Monday night. I will be going to the HETMA Awards at the, what is it called? At the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club. I think that's where it's at.
Very exciting. So what we'll do is link in the comments of each of the platforms the links to some of these sessions, but the two I guess that I'd like to shout out is one that I'm moderating. So that's a digital signage trends forecast that'll be on the tech innovation stage at InfoComm, and we had our sort of pre-chat to get to know each other last week, and that was great. And there's some really epic knowledge in the group that'll be sitting there. We're going to talk a lot about green signage, sustainability in general, and AI, and also what content we think that Gen Z are looking for from digital signage. So that's on the Wednesday, I want to say 11 or 11:30 at the Tech Innovation stage. Also a shout out to my Avixa Sustainability Advisory Group friends. They will be presenting on the Tech Innovation stage as well in the afternoon on the Wednesday. So we'll link these, and that is a kind of recruitment drive. We're looking for more experts in the sustainability space to come and join the conversation and guide Avixa in what the industry is looking for to assist them in this space. So all very exciting. There's loads more stuff going on, and we'll try and make sure that we highlight it all over the next few weeks.
And you know what I'm actually excited is that you guys are bringing over your celebrity from
Louis.
TV.
Oh yeah.
Louis will be making his first InfoComm appearance. And if you've not met Louis, he is all over Midwich TV. He is the voice. He is the person who does the unboxings. He does the booth videos. As we grow as a company and as we expand globally, you're going to start seeing a lot of familiar faces from different parts of the world starting to come together and create a lot of different things. So from a content creation, I'm excited to see Louis both here and at ISC now, because I've seen him there. Now we get to hang out with him here, and the whole marketing team from Midwich that's coming over to help help pull all the groups together, because man, there's a lot of us now. It was just a stare-in booth. It is not just a stare-in booth anymore. It's a Midwich group.
One big family
Yes,
headed to InfoComm.
Absolutely.
So today we started this by looking at whether or not we had the knowledge and access to the right people and research tools to look at inclusive and assistive technology. And we quickly discovered that that was just far too broad a topic, and we needed to focus on a specific area, and that maybe this becomes a series and we see how it goes down. And I think, very much for personal reasons, Chris and I have family members who this is particularly relevant for, and our guest is in very much the same position. We chose to research technology for neurodiversity. And we found something quite interesting, that most of the tech is sitting outside of our industry, yet most of the decisions and the designs are coming from inside our industry. And there was just a massive mismatch. And the more people that we spoke to, the less we found that this is a consideration for end users, consultants, integrators in general. And yet we pivoted so fast as a result of COVID to implement technologies that this community have been asking for so many years, that it's quite upsetting to discover what we were capable of doing as a society globally, to support the majority of people, when actually, a lot of the technologies that we implemented have been on the request list for so long for those in the neurodiverse community. So should we start by, and I'm going to say some of these wrong, I'm certain, I'm going to list what is covered under the term or the paradigm of neurodiversity. And this is taken from Wikipedia, so if it's out of date, blame them. So as of this morning, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, more commonly known as ADHD, any developmental speech disorder, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dysnomnia maybe, or dysnomnia. Hang on. Then we have any intellectual disability, obsessive compulsive disorder, otherwise known as OCD, Tourette syndrome. And then finally, we have the sort of controversial, are mental illnesses included in neurodiversity or not? And some say they are, and some say they are not. So it may include for some schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and many personality disorders, including antisocial personality disorder as an example. So it's pretty broad. And I would be very surprised if you are not working with somebody who is considered to be neurodiverse, or if your children are not at school or in any form of education alongside those people. So what we have gone ahead and done is have a look at what's available. And then we managed to catch up, because he's unavailable today as he's at an event, with Justin Dawson, who is a well-known figure in Ireland and Europe, in the AV community. But what many people don't know is that he is an autism advocate, doing much campaign work and educating his local society and various businesses on what is required to help people with ASD. So that to come. Now, I think maybe let's have a little quick chat about the differences in our cultures, Chris. So here in the UK, I would say things get worse the older a person gets in terms of the resources and the inclusivity and inclusive attitudes that they come across. So in the early school years, my personal experience is that there's a lot of help available. If it's dyslexia, there's a really well-known app here called Nessie. You can have an account as an individual, or your school can have an account. In fact, most schools have accounts. A really helpful tool to present reading and writing and spelling in a different way, and one that's proven to be far easier for those with dyslexia to navigate. If it is ADHD and ASD, most of our schools in the UK are quite happy to provide the interventions, the fidgets, the ear defenders, more gamified and interactive lesson planning, to help make sure that learning isn't impacted for young people with neurodiverse needs. And actually, it's law. So if you have an educational healthcare plan in place for your child, it becomes law, a legal requirement for that school to provide reasonable adjustments and assistance to make sure that the learning is not impacted for that child. Then we go to university, and we're going to talk about this a lot more with our guest. And it becomes very much the responsibility of the student to request anything extra they need. And I'd say the experience over here is maybe half of what they require is easily accessible. And then we go to the workplace, and wow, does it change. You must ask. You must ask for what you need. Workplaces are legally obliged to make reasonable adjustments to support any disability in the workplace. But the onus really is on the individual to say, I require this to do my job. And for anyone who knows much, particularly about ASD, but also ADHD and many others, asking for help is not something that's easy for somebody who is neurodiverse. So you've already created the first hurdle. What's the situation in the States?
So as a parent, I can say that the elementary side was a little tough to get to that, because you get before someone is diagnosed or classified, you get the warning signs. The homework that just would go on for hours, as my son would not be able to focus. Notes from the teacher that he's not being attentive, he's not doing things. And then the fight really begins, because then you have to go through the process of classification, going to see a professional help, and finally getting that. Then you, as parents, have to come to the conclusion of, do I get prescription medications involved in that space? And then you go through the testing period of that, where you are going through various medications to find the one or the dosage that works the best. Because my son did not like being on the pills that he had. And we went through many different ones because they made him feel weird. And then some, as he got older, he felt, or does feel, that it affects his personality.
Right.
So he is not who he is because he feels that he's more sedated and not who he is, but it does focus him. So you got a lot of personal things going against you. And then you have the school and the laws. And the laws is that they have to provide and they have to help. And in elementary school, we had that. We had the note from the doctor. We have the laws behind us. But the problem is that you still fight every day, because the teachers have to shift how they teach. It is different. You may have taken a class during the time that you were becoming a teacher many years ago
Yeah.
to know how to do this, but you have to understand the individual and how the things go. And that is the problem, because we are a society that everybody should be treated the same and everything should be different. But what happens when somebody doesn't learn at the same pace? That is a bit of a problem. So we fight through high school, we fight through all this, we have extra support. It's not throwing bodies at it. That's the first kind of answer to these things. We're going to get you extra support. That's great. I still have to pay for a tutor because the minute you walk out the door, information's lost.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a constant communication. It's constant verbal. And you're right. Things that we did during the pandemic with videos
Would have been really helpful.
Would have been helpful. But now they're gone, right?
Yeah.
Now it's not even an option anymore. And society laughs at that. Oh, we're not in that space. Why do we have to be that? I understand. And in some places in America, it kind of feels like it never was a thing, right? But it truly does help a lot of people. And the technology and the things are there. As we'll see in the video, one of the things that keeps coming back is that as they mature, as my son matures, it's advocating for himself, right?
Yeah.
He graduated high school and he had to learn how to teach himself, because when you go to college, you're thrown into a much different learning environment where it's you listen, take notes, and you go home and you figure it out and you come back and you try to get that A. So learning how to study was not something that was taught, right? Learning how to dedicate time and how you have to reread and highlight and all that. That was my biggest argument in high school. And the reason why I didn't send my son to a top level college, for example, I have 100 different reasons, and I can have a whole show based on why I did what I did, as far as like not taking his SATs to knock his confidence down, to sending him to community college because that's where he needed to learn how to learn first. There's a whole bunch of different things. Then when you go to college, then you're completely on your own, because as soon as they turn 18, you are an individual, you're an adult.
You're an adult. Yeah.
I need a permission slip to talk. I have to advocate with him in the room, and he has to give me permission to advocate for him when at times he can't do that himself. So it's a battle. It's a struggle. Strap on. The show is going to get interesting with Justin, because Justin goes into detail of what he is currently going through with his young son at this point. So two things I want you to remember. What you think you know about neurodiversity, you don't. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. You will learn something by listening to other people who are doing it.
Yeah.
So what you thought you know, you're gonna have to unlearn it and relearn it, because it's something that changes all the time. Second of all, 2 words in our AV vocabulary is gonna make you question a lot of things, but no 2 words more than value engineered. Something is value engineered. Unfortunately, it's typically this kind of stuff that gets the value engineering.
Yeah.
The minute that we learn that it is as important as the speaker in the ceiling or the video camera in the front of the room, the better off we're going to be. So please listen without prejudice. Just listen to it and think about how your own designs and how many times you've pulled out from assisted listening because it wasn't in the budget, or you pulled out from sound absorption or quieter spaces, making rooms better, right? Think about sound bars in the front of a room and how that was blasting to somebody who may be with ADHD who sits in the front and not at the table at the opposite end where it's more comfortable. Think about your designs in a different way. And that's all I can ask, and that we can all learn and grow from that. So I guess that's my rant for now.
So I started to write a list, right? And I was amazed at, number one, some of the really cool things that I found that sit outside of our industry, but we 100% should know about them, because we're out there and we're having these conversations. And it's the perfect way to be an ally is to raise and highlight what's available to help in these situations. But also, probably the biggest lesson that I learned from this was, oh my goodness, most of this stuff actually would help neurotypicals. The choice to add this, or the benefits that come with some of it, is just really useful across the spectrum. And I don't mean the autistic spectrum, I mean everyone. So I'm going to launch into a list of stuff that I've found through the research that I've done, and then some ideas that I've come up with for the workplace ahead of this, understanding a little bit more from someone who's on the front line in the education space. So I started looking for what could help in a typical white collar desk sitting role, with a view of somebody that had neurodiverse challenges. And there's lots of guidance out there in terms of making text bigger or how to lay out your screen if you're working on a tablet. There's various different technologies that make them easier to navigate if you are if you respond better to larger text, brighter, whatever it is. But then there's also some really cool stuff. So the first thing I came across, and I'm going to keep looking right because I've loaded them all onto my second screen, was a website called autistica.org.uk. And these guys wrote a number of articles when we pivoted during COVID to hybrid working. And their point was, I guess, the busyness and of online video calls, and how that perhaps wasn't the ideal communication tool for everybody. And so I would point you to go and read some of those articles, because it comes up with some really helpful checklists in terms of which platform to choose, checking that chosen platform for visual clutter, any animations that are included, what colors it uses, etc. And also, obtaining the transcripts. And this one's a really interesting one, because a lot can be missed when you're trying to navigate social interaction as a neurodiverse person. So the ability to go back and read with no distractions the text that was discussed, make sure that you have the opportunity to re-understand anything that you misinterpreted, or reevaluate the context in which it was said, in case of misinterpretation. That transcript is really, really useful. And I think at the moment, we've all gotten quite good at sharing recordings, but we don't always record. I do think that Copilot is going to drive a lot of this, because the benefits come if you are recording more and more of your meetings. But adding in that transcript is a really easy way of just making sure, without highlighting the need to do it, that everybody has that option to go back over and reread what was said and fully absorb it, so nobody's left the meeting with less of an understanding than the others. Another resource that I found was a website called Autentic.ai, AUTENTIK.ai. And this one is mega. So they have a number of products. I haven't had the chance to test them all out as yet, but here's a little selection of my favorites. Number one, an AI explain and reply plugin for your Chrome browser. So this extension is going to clarify hidden meanings in messages and help create some of the potential replies. This is an amazing potential social tool to add into your browser. I hope this is something that becomes available in Teams and other communication platforms in the future. What a great way to aid those neurodiverse workforce employees who maybe sit there and spend a lot of time procrastinating about what the correct response is, or what many of the meanings may have been in the text that they receive. Bearing in mind that when we help, particularly people on the autism spectrum, we teach them some very basic understandings of this face means this emotion, these words mean that emotion. And then when you go into the adult world, lots of that blends together and it gets harder to read. Now imagine you just communicate through text. Hasn't this just got harder for them to figure out what you mean exactly, and what the best response to it would be? So there's number one. An AI reply bot is also available from this website. It will just create those potential replies like an automated text, really, but it's based on well-received neurotypical responses, as opposed to what it's learnt from your typical responses, which is what you find in phone, text, and WhatsApp systems, for example. you can have an emotions detector for Chrome. So this is an AI-powered extension that helps detect emotions on photos or in videos for home or private use. Again, how exciting that this might one day be developed to be integrated into Teams or Zoom. Explain and reply for web services, etc. And then there's various tools around e-commerce that simplify purchases and alert people to when maybe they're being over marketed to and similar. So this I found to be a really great website. And then the final one, again, outside of our industry, but very interesting, I came across a company called Loop Earplugs. I believe these are sold in the US and the UK. And they have a range of earplugs with varying degrees in capability when it comes to active noise cancellation. Many other brands are available in this space. What I thought was interesting about this offering is if you want to widen your thoughts or provoke your thoughts in terms of what somebody might need, this website answers all your questions. So you can have earplugs that are best for sleep, deep focus, traveling and commuting. Okay, this isn't just for the neurodiverse population, this is for everyone. You've got the Engage series, which are best for conversations, social gatherings, sometimes parenting and noise sensitivity. So these are ideal for ADHD and ASD because they're going to block out the stimulating sensory, the sensory stimulus around, but they're going to allow that local conversation to you or a teacher, for example, to still happen and not be blocked out. I mean, there's great, these would be great on airplanes as well, you know, that you could block out some things, but you'd still hear cabin crew if they came to talk to you and similar. So there's loads on here to look through. And I think, you know, even if you're not in the market for them, what I found was discovering this range of earplugs, noise cancellation earplugs, opened my eyes to the varying degrees of what you needed them to do. And from there, I came up with a toolkit. So I've written this toolkit for businesses to consider. And maybe you know, this becomes available to new starters, and you can say, or you know, current staff of, here is our typical desktop shopping list of you know, available products that are approved by your organization for use. But here's some things to consider, and maybe to make available to all and not just those who meet specific criteria, which might be the case at the moment. So my first was high-low standing desks to allow people to move. Now, I know a lot of companies will require you to apply for one of these on the basis of, say, a bad back. Now, this is changing because I think well-being in the workplace is so much better understood now. So people are quite often wanting people to be able to stand up for the health benefits around that. But there is another one. So, you know, the ability to move, to be able to concentrate, and the need to move whilst you're focusing on a task is very common in some neurodiverse conditions. One, then this is a personal one, and I think it would work. It certainly works for myself in terms of focus in the workplace, is curved monitors in extra wide formats like 21:9 or 32:9. This allows for less peripheral distraction. And if you are someone that's easily going to be distracted, or you have impulsive behaviors, or you struggle to focus, this is just one very simple way to aid your immersed experience in your work or whatever it is, whatever task you're taking part in. Noise cancellation headsets, and I have to add a caveat here, they should have the ability for active noise cancellation to be in use when you are not on a call. Whereas at the moment, we seem to focus quite heavily on the need to cancel out background noise only when somebody is going to be using them as a communication tool. But actually, that noise cancellation is priceless when it comes to being able to carry out a focused task, and you need to block out some of those distractions around you. Something else to consider, where people sit. Now, if you struggle with OCD, the ability to sit with sufficient space between you and the next person who perhaps is a little messier than you would like them to be, that's ideal. But also consider the desk position in relation to fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights actually pulse very quickly, not obvious if you're staring at them, but they're quite renowned for causing people headaches if they have to sit directly underneath them or they're in the line of sight. This is going to be significantly worse for somebody who is hypersensitive to repetitive noises or visuals in and around them. So consider that desk position. And if somebody has made you aware of a neurodiverse requirement, this might be one just to say, oh, have you ever sat under a fluorescent light before? Or let me know how you get on in this space. We can move you if you would be more comfortable somewhere else. And the ability to work from home. So, if COVID did one thing, it was that many of us adopted hybrid working. And this, whilst difficult for some, allowed others to thrive without the pressure of potential unplanned social interaction at any point during their day. So that safety of working from home, having your extra technology in place without it necessarily needing to be on show to everyone, that's really important. And I think that it should form part of the reasonable adjustments that workplaces consider for those who have neurodiverse requirements.
Jenny, I would even go as far as saying that adjusting the work hours, it's another thing. Some people cannot complete work in 8 hours. They may need 10. And if they're going to put in 10 hours, then adjust the schedules accordingly. I think that too needs to be better implemented. It's not because I want off on Friday, right? It's more because I am focused and can do what is required of me at my job if I extend my stay and do that. So again, there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of conversation in this video where your head is going to be, as an audience listening to us talking right now, you're probably thinking a lot about nice to haves versus need to haves. Have that conversation in your head and take the seat of the person who needs to have it, not from they're not senior enough to have a 21-inch widescreen monitor. That's not the point. The point is it gets the job done, and you're providing the tools to make that happen. And you're treating people equally and fairly that way by doing that. So again, just things to constantly think about. But we do have a video coming up, and Jenny, you do have some stuff to still wrap up. So go ahead before we get into
there's only one more. I think there's only one more. So my final one was social media style engagement tools. Now, I've come across a few of these. There's one that's embedded in Teams. I think it's called Viva. There's Meta have one. Is it Workplace? Workplace.
I think killing, to be honest with you, they've killed off.
Yeah. So, but there's a few of them about third-party software platforms, some that integrate with Teams plugins and similar. It's an interesting concept, the engagement platform. And I think a lot of people assume, it's going to be difficult to get everyone to get involved. And there's already social media platforms for people to chat between and so on. But actually providing a space where somebody can cautiously work out who shares interests with them and who doesn't, and then safely approach some of those work colleagues to start to build a relationship without the pressure of a face-to-face social interaction. That's really going to benefit the camaraderie of your business. And I have changed my perspective actually on these platforms, because I hadn't considered that they provide that safety net, that at your own pace, and good barriers in terms of getting to know some of your work colleagues, but feeling really comfortable in doing so. So I think that is quite an interesting one to explore if your company is looking at how best to tackle employee engagement. The more social media text style, messaging style groups that you can join without forced tasks and so on. This is a really good and easy way to engage at whatever pace you choose to pursue. So I think we're ready to play our interview. So a quick introduction. We are about to play a pre-recorded interview with Justin Dawson. Justin is a long time serving member of the AV industry, currently in a role is he AV technology manager? What is Justin's current?
Definitely AV technology.
AV technology manager.
At
a university in Dublin, and he is also the father of a pre-verbal autistic child, so living this in both senses. And what I found really interesting about this interview was how obvious some of the suggestions Justin had were, and how lacking in cost actually they would be to implement. So let's play that interview and see what you think.
Let's go. How are you, sir? How's everything? Please go ahead and give the audience an intro to who you are.
I'm Justin Dawson. Work, as you see, with my lower third in Dublin City University as a senior technical officer. What does that mean? I do everything tech for the School of Nursing, Psychotherapy and Community Health in DCU. So, you know, it's sort of a mixture of looking after IT, looking after our learning management system, and also doing the AV as well that goes on in this school. And also with that, you might have heard me on some podcasts from time to time, and also have set up and founded avgroup.ie or AV Groupie. I'm also the parent of an autistic pre-verbal 6-year-old boy, and we had a great day today as well. We had our first attached walk with my son, who is if anyone understands what a flight risk is, he's an eloper, as some people might know it as. So if I let go of his wrist, he's gone. So we are getting an autism assistant dog in the next 6 months or so. It is an absolute, not just game changer, a life changer for myself and my wife and our family, and we're so looking forward to it. And I don't want to break into tears starting off, so we'll just leave that there. You know, follow me on my socials, and you see all the photos of it.
We did not warn the audience that this was going to be an emotional episode. So,
we're all parents, and we all have with a link to neurodiversity, and something that I discovered is that no matter where on the spectrum you find yourself or your family member, you end up naturally going down a rabbit hole of research into all sort of sides of the spectrum. And, you know, you can be at one end or the other in a sort of circular motion when it comes to ASD. So like you mentioned, with your case of pre-verbal, there is, of course, the other side where you have sensory seeking children who have equal challenges, but in almost the opposite style. And I guess that because you naturally end up researching autism and neurodiversity in full, it starts to raise some questions, or it certainly has done for myself, around, well, what can our industry do to assist here? And my personal experience is that actually in junior education in the UK, many of our schools are waking up to how they can help. And there are apps and accounts for dyslexia that are proven to be much more useful in terms of the methodology of teaching. And then, of course, we have we've been really successful in the rollout of interactive displays in our education system in the UK and Ireland, which means that content is a bit more engaging, more gamified. Students tend to have iPads in class or technology to interact with, and this is all very helpful for ASD and ADHD, actually, in the classroom, proven to be quite useful to students of that neurodiversity. Now, you work in higher education.
Yes.
And I haven't been to uni for a while, but if I recall correctly, these sorts of considerations and additional tech just weren't there when I was there. What is the situation now?
It's getting better, but we are a long way off. I can say now that Dublin City University, you know, we are classified with our national autism charity, as I am, as being an autism friendly university. Yeah. Now, this goes back to even before I started in DCU that they made a bit of a roadmap with As I Am to what they want it to be an autism-friendly university is all about. However, we have had COVID in between it, and budgets get slashed all the time in higher ed. So has this had an impact on making it an autism-friendly university? Yes, it has. Now, people will say, okay, put a sensory pod in there and everything's fine. Now, I've had these conversations with Hetma. I've had these conversations on other podcasts before with Joe as well. And my first thing I'm going to say right now is the lecture theatre that we used to sit in must die now. And even right now, I will say that we need to get T-shirts to say that, and I will wear them over at InfoComm. Because, why?
Theatre must die.
Yeah,
No.
lecture theatre must die, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is
we're going to jail.
When we went to university, Jenny, what did we do? We sat in front of a table in tiered format.
Yeah.
That's what I remember as a lecture theatre, and still exists in a lot of universities now, right? Well, if you are neurodiverse and you need to move, and you are in a 200 plus lecture theatre, that's where I'll start off with this conversation. The fear of going into a room of that size, the fear of not having the audio to hear at the back. We talked a bit off mic about it, that every AV technician has done a live event where the presenter just goes, oh no, can you hear me at the back? Yeah, thumbs up, yeah, great. Okay, I'm not going to use the mic. And even as the AV technician who might have a tripod and camera at the back going, oh no, Jesus. And like when they come out, it's go, was that good? Yeah. It's like, yeah, it was good, but your pre-record, so if that is happening with people that want to listen to the pre-record, that's happening to people that are sitting in the hall, whether they're neurodiverse or not, being able to hear, but that is just the starting point, of what I mean by the lecture theatre must die is having the approach that, the modern universities that are popping up across England, and I've seen a lot going through LTSMGs, that if you want to have a beanbag in a lecture theatre, have a beanbag in a lecture theatre. If you want a chair that swivels around to do breakout sessions, yeah, they can do breakout sessions, but that's also great for the person that needs to move and can swivel in their chair. The fundamentals of good audio, good sound, good noise reduction is essential. That should be the fundamental starting point. But then also the aesthetics of the room, of going, why should I have a really comfortable table in front of me, that has a load of plug sockets maybe for my laptop, but I'm getting irritated as a neurodiverse person that I need to, maybe click on and off the switch in front of me. It has to change. Between that and on a university, having quiet spaces. Why is the quiet spaces always being put in the libraries? This is what I really get. If it's a campus, I think a quiet space should be in every one of the schools. So if you were to ask me a bit about the technology that needs to be in these spaces, I think we need to, people don't like the words even using hybrid anymore or high flex, right? But if we are using, whether it be Zoom or Teams or another, to do the live streaming, recording, capturing, right? If that's happening at that point in time, even if it's a lecture capture device, as a fundamental as well, should be closed captioning, and closed captioning on a screen in the room for either a dyslexic, neurodiverse, or whatever, to be able to go, okay, I can't hear you at the front, but I can read the closed caption. I find in universities people are giving out about AI. We need to embrace it, and we need to embrace it for this reason, that it can be very assistive for the neurodiverse, for whether you're dyslexic, dyspraxic, whatever, to be able to use these technologies. Closed captioning, transcription, whatever the case may be. It shouldn't be blocked. We talk about plugins that can go on browsers and everything, but you could, whether you're staff or student, this could be blocked by your IT department in your university.
Yeah, agreed.
Why?
Yeah, I think it's about awareness and education, right? So Chris made a point earlier, before we came onto this pre-record, about some of the tools, some of the technology that it makes sense to us as people who are aware of the needs of neurodiverse people, are viewed by neurotypicals as a perk. And this reminds me a bit of anyone that's done pub work. You used to get annoyed at the smokers because they got more regular breaks, right? Because they needed to go outside and have their cigarette. And then the others would go, well, hang on a second, I don't get a 5-minute break every hour, so why do they get one? But it's not about that. And I'm certainly not comparing neurodiversity to smoking, but it is a genuine need. And actually, that ability to cancel out the surrounding noise makes a significant difference to the learning experience of that individual. And you just mentioned some lecturers will shout at the beginning of a session, can you hear me at the back? Mm-hmm. And as long as they don't hear no, which is ridiculous, because if you couldn't hear them, you wouldn't know to say no, they then continue without their microphone, when actually, if they were mic'd up no matter what, that person who perhaps due to their neurodiversity cannot bear rustling of crisp packets, fidgeting of the person next to them, whatever it might be that could distract them, would be in a position to wear noise cancelling headphones and tune in just to that audio channel, and give them that great learning experience. Also, this goes beyond neurodiversity. Don't we all have different learning styles? Some of us learn auditory best, some visual. Exactly. So actually, if you could try and cater for all of those in the lecture theatre, haven't we just ticked the box for everyone, including the neurodiverse?
You have and you haven't, because we need to get the end user, which is, so it like if we were to even look at like the AVIXA CTS standard and just go, okay, you get an integrator that comes in and go, what do you want in the room? And they're talking to the end users, right? Yes, we always say as AV pros that like, okay, they ask the wrong people when it goes wrong. Yes, they ask the wrong people, but like, how many times have you ever heard of an integrator or an installer going, no, I want to also talk to your neurodiverse society on campus, or I want to talk, like, okay, I'm looking at this blank space here. Okay, you've put in an area for disabled wheelchair area. Okay, great. But have you thought about, they might have thought about the sound and the lighting for an autistic or neurodiverse person, but like, have they actually thought about the technology? Or if the budget gets slashed, what's the first thing they're going to slash?
Yeah.
And yes, because they will say, oh, well, we can't slash the wheelchair bay area because, that's a legal requirement.
Yeah.
But, and like, this is where things have to change, I think, Jenny. Like there is legal requirements. I know in the States, Chris, you will say that there is standards and compliance, but I don't think there's enough standards and compliance in UK and Europe to protect. And like, I'll even go down, go down base level to our primary schools here over in Ireland, Jenny, where I fought legal cases with our National Council of Special Education for proper assessments. And I'll go with the keywords, the needs of the child has to be identified in our Disability Act, right? So if that's at a child level, that's, in my view, that still counts to, up to 18. Now, we need to get something more fundamental and a standard. I would love, if I was to put, a wish, a magic wand, I hope in the next 5 years that I will be able to help create a global standard for this type of neurodiverse ends of things.
I think you just volunteered yourself.
No, I have volunteered. And, and I think there's enough people out there from going to trade shows talking about this and go, oh, my son or my daughter.
Yeah.
I look at Kieran now, he's pre-verbal. I would hope that at some stage, he's in an autism class now, I have to think of like the difficulties, as you mentioned, of going into secondary school age group and going into an autism class there. But I would hope that, when he gets to 18, now 12 years time, that I can see a university, even if it's DCU, going, right, you had this roadmap, but now we're up here on this roadmap.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't be, oh, well, look at us. We have a sensory pod in a, in a library. And I don't aim this at GCU. I aim this at any university. We have a sensory pod. Sure, we're an autism-friendly university. No, there's a lot more to that. And, if we're looking at some disabilities, we have to look at all disabilities.
Agreed. I think this is where it's interesting. You mentioned, you get that tick of being autism friendly because you installed a sensory pod somewhere in the university campus. And to a certain extent, isn't that true of much disability and accessibility? That we have ramps, therefore we are wheelchair friendly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are wheelchair friendly, because they might be too steep or whatever it is. And
where your sidewalks are 15 inches high.
Exactly. Once you're in the building, the wheelchair doesn't fit down the corridor, however it works. So we live in a society, I think, at the moment of compliance rather than, being competitive or ahead of the game. We do the bare minimum. Now, let's just quickly touch on this. So in terms of the UK, when you're in school, and as I say, my experience at the moment is that primary schools have much better understanding of this than secondary schools and then later on universities. What I would like to see is that individual can leave their compulsory education, enter higher education with their own list of what will help them.
Wouldn't that be brilliant?
Yes.
Yeah. And we have in Ireland our state exams, which would be like your A levels over in England. Yeah. But it's all like, let's write as many words as possible. And I'm typing, but I'm saying, right, let's write as many words as possible. Because even I know like people that are dyslexic and dyspraxic, and you have to fight to be allowed to use a laptop or get someone to help you write or the extra hours time in your state exam. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to fight for these types of things.
For us here, your state levels, for example, for us to get into university, they want you to take SATs. I refused to let my son take the SATs. There was no point. For what? So you can belittle him because he cannot finish in time, because he needs extra time and you won't give him the extra time. His accommodations are only going to go so far. No, you're not going to get that. And you're not going to subjugate him to that. So instead, he took an entrance exam at the university and he started at county college, which is the smaller colleges. And they had a better way of handling it. My son currently is at Rutgers. He graduated with his associate's degree. Did it take a bit? Yes, it took an extra year in the process to make it happen. Did it require a lot of fighting? Absolutely, because when you get to the higher ed level here in the US, they have certain protection, certain rights, but it is up to the instructor and the teacher how they take that. Throw in some COVID and the issues with online versus in person. My son flourishes in person. Online, there is way too many distractions in his room and in the house and all that. There's a lot of different things. And something that you guys brought up earlier that I have to bring up, I have a story, and it's a very quick story. My son, when we first discovered that my son had ADHD, it came because he was having a miserable time in school. And I said to anybody, I said, if you're going to make my son hate school, I'm going to hate you, because I cannot be the person who has to drag my elementary school kid to school because he hates it. And he raised his hand, right? And the example of, hey, can you hear me? My son would have heard somebody talk and would have sat in the back and would have went, yep, not having a clue what was heard. Somebody would have laughed, which they did. And somebody made fun of him. He never raised his hand again for the remainder of his time. So it's also a cultural and a personal thing when it comes to that. As a parent of somebody who has been through it, it is very personal to me. So I have to defend, now that my son is even 21, even at 21, I still have to watch out for his betterment, because, and even how we deal with our teachers right now and the guidance counselors, I'm like, no, I am going to be in the meeting.
Yeah.
I have to force myself into the meeting. Oh, but he's
Yeah.
old enough. I understand, but my son has classified.
Yeah.
And there is an issue here. And does he have to give you permission for me to talk? I cannot be in the room because he's of age.
Yeah.
So there is that fight.
Yeah.
There's a thing that goes on. And for what we do in our world of technology can assist. They love it. My son loves technology. You put technology, it's the distraction that is required to make him focus. You can use it. There are things out there that make life great.
One thing that I want to pick up on what Chris said there is like, there should, even neurodiverse aside, there should be a choice. We like our university sells on the student experience. The student experience should be the student having a choice whether or not he or she wants to be in that class or not. Now, as you mentioned, Chris, for your son, he needs the hands-on physical environment. For others, they might go, whoa, 200 people is far too much. The noise, the anxiety, whatever it could be.
The potential for social interaction. Obviously, in higher ed, you tend to have some pretty capable AV techs that have a rough idea of what they need. But I would love to know, Justin, when you're working with consultants or integrators, what would you like them to know more about or to consider when they're coming to you with designs and proposals?
Definitely that one size doesn't always fit all. And that that's what I'm seeing a lot with integrators. Oh, well, this is what we put over in another school. Yeah, with a school, like my prime example is like for school of nursing, we have clinical simulation labs, right? And our integrator goes, oh, well, this is what we put in the classrooms on the touch panels. It's like, yeah, on off, is one thing, but we need rooms connecting and matrixing and so forth, and be able to, have a nice user interface on that touch panel. If I'm not getting it and I'm the tech, then my end users aren't going to get it either. But look, that's one thing. Rolling back, you have to have the lecturers embracing in this new technology. And it's not even new technology now because we've gone through COVID. If you have a high flex environment, I've seen it enough with live events where, you could be doing a Zoom call or whatever, or they want to, some of the students can't make it that day. So therefore we're going to do a Zoom call, but how easy it is for the lecturer to actually forget about the people that are on the Zoom call and vice versa. And it's the skill of how do you make this interaction work all the time. And yes, there is some great companies out there that actually have been working on this for years, of making an environment that people can be seen and heard at the same time. And yes, it takes a lot to make a lecture hall or a classroom of that environment. But even if you strip it all back and put a couple of 65, 75-inch monitors with a camera on either side, it's getting the lecturer to learn that you also have to talk about that person on the far end and let them contribute back. And keeping that interaction. We're only as good as the tech that we can sell and put into a room. But if we can't get the end user using it and exploring other avenues of how to use the box, we can put in any box.
Yeah.
In the words of a famous movie here in the US, I think you guys probably know Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Absolutely. That is what all we can do is help try to build it, and hopefully the people will come, because that's the toughest part. You're really dealing with a big circular issue where you have cost versus education and tradition, and then culture, and then how are we going to bring all that? And in between there is a human who has to, be respected and be pushed, not in a way that is going to drive them away, but to be inclusive. So It's tough. Justin, I thank you so much for coming and
Guys, we
spending
could
some
talk
time.
about this all day, and I think it's something that will continue the conversation at InfoComm in Vegas. I think it's the next time we meet. But like it's a hot topic. I hope that we can build on it.
We're going to push the limits there. We're going to go onto the strip where there's lights and sounds and noise and flashes and water.
Wearing death to lecture theatre t-shirts.
Yes, we
sponsored by Midwich on the back.
What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you coming on and giving us a personal perspective, not just from somebody who obviously has worked in the space, but somebody who has a little bit more skin in the game and sees it in a completely different light. And we need to bring this awareness to people that are currently working, and maybe you're just looking at the seats as cubicles or as chairs or as empty spaces. They will be filled up by humans and people that need various and different things, whether they are social, emotional, or cultural. So I appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your time and giving us some of your expertise on this stuff. Jenny, you want to wrap that up?
Yeah, I think the only final thing to do, Justin, is let's hear if people want to get involved in AV Groupie. How do they do that?
Yeah, AV Groupie is open for Irish students studying audiovisual or any type of sound course or anything that has a touch of audiovisual. Students and also veterans of AV professionals. What I notice is that so many people, Jenny, will go over to England for training courses. And, I want to take away this competitive edge of AV companies in Ireland and just get together, talk in the same room and, have those moments that even Chris created during COVID where everyone can have a rant over a drink of what's wrong in the AV industry and how we're going to fix it eventually when we run out of drink. Between that, and you can catch me if you want to talk anything about autism awareness, if you want to talk about AV or anything techie, I'm at www.justinordawson.com.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Justin.
Thank you.
So appreciate it. Touching. Told you it was a special episode, folks. Justin knows and is coming at you from an angle that you may not have heard in a design meeting. He's coming at you from the parent side. So
the thing that hits me the most with that is the simplest of things. That whole lecturer stands up, presenters do this too, all over the place, and say, and now we are going beyond neurodiversity, right? Now we're going into assistive listening technologies. How often do we hear that? Can everyone hear me at the back? Great.
I don't need a microphone.
One, how could you possibly know? Because if they didn't hear you, they're not going to respond anyway. But also the number of people that would have benefited from being able to focus on your volume stream being that level above the hustle and bustle that's around them. And again, we keep coming back to that same point of the ability to move. I mean, we've all got watches now, haven't we, that want us to move and stand up and so on. So again, it benefits everybody. And Ifat made a really great comment earlier about what, that's what we call equity. It's not as complicated as people think. It's about having the buy-in from the top to want to create truly inclusive spaces. And I hope that our rants at the beginning of this episode and that great conversation that we've just shared that we had with Justin maybe give some people some food for thought in that by being inclusive, actually you potentially benefit everyone. So do it. Shall we talk about parties?
We should talk about parties because we are going to the biggest distraction, ADH-driven city in the world, I would say. Just step out on the Las Vegas Strip and you will be absolutely inundated with light, sound, and sensory everywhere.
Sensory stimulus.
Maybe we should do an episode on how AV internally should change as well, because the neurodiverse person who would like to enter our industry and gets that one person who is, for example, working on rack builds, for example, that does not give you more than an hour to figure out how to do a soldering connection, maybe we should talk to that person as well and speak to those folks, because that is a whole other episode that we could talk about. So if you'd like to see that in a future episode, please let us know. We would definitely like to go at that and see how we can change internally as an industry, because nothing that we do from a technology perspective is going to work unless we change and that we shift our mindsets to include the people in the design. As much as we love to talk about our designs, we need to talk about the people who are actually using the product.
And we're surrounded by them. So, you know, it's there's two industries where you will find a high percentage of the neurodiverse population. One is medicine and the other is tech. So we should be leading the charge, because, you know, we're made up of many of these people with lived experience. So who better to advise on how to design those systems?
And another real quick thing, another comment that IFAT made about UC Expo and DTX, I can second that. One of the things that they did very interesting there for a trade show, as the show is happening in the middle, there's conference things happening on the side, and excuse my dog that wants to be part of the conversation. Our moderated panel that I did with IFAT there last October, as we spoke, the audience put on headsets. You could not hear us. Doesn't matter who you were, you could not hear us because it was a very loud environment. To have those headphones, people were like, I don't want to wear them. As soon as you put them on, you actually were standing there in the conversation with us. It makes a big difference. So please, show organizers, trade shows, events, integrators that are hosting their own events, have those kind of things available to folks. It lets them focus. People will be more attentive to it. Now let's get to a party. Wednesday night, InfoComm, the party to go to will be the Starin, Midwich, the Farm, SFM get together at Old Red, which is Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani's, I guess, place. That's their bar. If you've never seen the show Barmageddon, it is kind of it's filmed at the original Old Red in Nashville. This is obviously now a chain place. This is the newest bar that they built out in Vegas. It is right across from the Horseshoe. If you come, you get a great view, second and third floor, story high view of the Bellagio fountains. And you get to hang out with Jenny, myself, a lot of cool people. Well, cool is, I'll leave that up to you if we're cool or not. But interesting folks that like to talk about weird stuff. You can definitely show up. The party invitations are out there. I got about 20, maybe 25 VIP passes that I have to put out. If you're on Twitter or X right now, send me a DM. I will get you the link. You can sign up. If you're at InfoComm, please join us at this party. It's going to be great. You're going to stop by our booth. Why? Because our host of characters that we're going to have there are going to be probably some of the best people you're going to talk to when it comes to getting your technology needs down. And I'm not just saying that. These are folks that understand the products that we sell in a way that maybe others don't. We're just not pushing the boxes out the door. That is something that we're trying to change in the distribution space. So please stop by our booth, see, God, I just now, that memory, that tattoo thing that I had in the back of my head is gone. I don't remember, but you can find us. Look for the Starin booth. You'll find everybody from SFM, the Farm, 76
C8022. That's Central Hall 8022.
So see us there, because that's what we're going to do. If you'd like to find me or Jenny, we will be running across the show floor. I will be wearing my sneakers. Jenny decides no sneakers. And the next show that we have coming up will be our post InfoComm wrap up. Typically one of our biggest shows of the year. I think ISC may be our biggest show when we do our post ISC and pre ISC. InfoComm comes there very close, and we're going to give you the facts. What was cool, what was hot, what was not, what was bad, what is good, and what needs to be improved, because we are critics of our own, we eat our own dog food and we tell you if it tastes good or bad. So we have no problem with that. If you know that expression, please do not take it the wrong way. We do not eat dog food. Just I need a disclaimer somewhere in there. But we will absolutely tell you what we saw, what we liked, and what we didn't like. Oh, wow.
Happy birthday, Tim and Kevin.
Yes, we have a happy birthday going on for Tim Albright and Kevin O'Dowd. And ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much what we have done for the show. Jenny, would you like to say some final thoughts?
Yeah, so as we mentioned at the start of the show, we picked neurodiversity for this sort of first attempt at an inclusive and assistive technology show. If you have any requests for us to go off and go down a rabbit hole of research to produce another episode of the same ilk, but a different disability to tackle maybe, or a different form of technology, let us know and we'll see what we can gather in terms of expert opinions and research for you. Other than that, those that are going, I can't wait to see you at InfoComm. Those who aren't going, we hope you can join us for our post-InfoComm wrap-up show, where we'll share everything that we can remember about the week before. And I think it's time to go pack. So
Absolutely. I got one more trip before I go to InfoComm. I got to go down to Atlanta, but I will be in Vegas Saturday. You can, the Saturday before InfoComm. So I'll be there for the week. You can find me there. Trust me, send messages. I assume producer Kerry will be dropping our links to where you can find us on the socials below. But Chris_Neto is where you can find me on X. You can find me on LinkedIn. Jenny, you can find her on LinkedIn. You can find her on X. Midwich Jenny or Jenny?
at Midwich Jenny.
At Midwich Jenny. You now have the information, all the information that you need. If there's anything else, and folks, just to let you know, the people that have sent me messages about doing a show about pineapple and pizza and technology, I am trying. Jenny keeps shooting me down. I am working. I am a man of the people. We will have this episode
On the list.
But up until then, we have nothing but good things, good vibes coming this way. InfoComm is going to be a great show. I think it's going to be the one that finally, breaks us past the 3-year kind of, oh, it's there, but it's not pre-COVID days. I know that's a bad word to say, but I think this show is going to be great. Folks, I look forward to seeing you there. Do not be shy. We run around with our heads on a swivel. If you see us, say hi, please. Without my glasses, I can't see 5 feet in front of me, but I'm great at short distances. So please, absolutely. Is that everything? Did we said happy birthday? We thank producer Kerry for putting up with us. An hour-long show, not what our intention was, but we could not cut up the Justin Dawson interview anymore as possible. And again, it was a subject that was near and dear to both the three of us. For everybody who's watching, thank you. You are watched. We see everything, all the comments. We appreciate that. We love the engagement. We love all that. Thank you so much, Chris Southern, for dropping the comments before. I didn't get to say hi to it before. But everybody who's in there, all the followers on X that are there with the platform that people said wasn't going to work for us, but it's there. YouTube, LinkedIn, you can find us. Thank you so much, everybody. That's it. Should I sign off? Should we call it a day?
Let's go. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks for joining, everybody. See you next time on Midwich Live.